Well, good evening, and good evening. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining me on this Saturday evening, Saturday the 1st of the 3rd, 2025. And my name is Silver and Cillian, and welcome to Talking Sip Saturday night, where we'll have discussions about anything and everything. And of course, I'll have some guests, yeah, plural or whatever. And yeah, you know what? It's another night. It's another Saturday night, and you know, as I said, even on my Thursday shows, there's so many things happening in the world, and but my topic tonight really is a bit more targeted, and it is called social unity and solutions, and having a frank talk. I'm saying having a frank talk, and that frank talk is about specifically with the world, but specifically with Jamaica at the same time. You know, I was watching the Trump thing the other day, and I'm going to talk about that. That is the Trump and Zelensky. And what was very interesting about that, I want to thank those who are joining me on Instagram, Vegan Patty, those on TikTok, and those on Facebook as well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. But one of the things that I saw in my little thinking about what was happening there was about visions, was about world affairs. It's about what if America is not there? What if the UK is not there? What do the other world do? What do the Caribbean do? What do Africa do? You know, what if the big beast America is not there? You know, and I was reminded that when you had the whole issue of COVID, countries became very self-reliant as much as possible. They became self-reliant to the point whereby they realized that certain things have been blocked. Certain things are not going to happen. Certain fundings, they got to close their eyes and say that's over. So therefore, countries in a way started to look inwardly and how they can actually have a level of self-reliance, have a level of self-sustenance. And I believe that is something that I believe the world needs to somewhat look at this time. Caribbean countries, African countries need to look at how one can have a high level of self-reliance. Now, and if I move to Jamaica now, when we talk about the vision, because there's this division which is being spread. Division which is being spread by what sort of color you are, i.e. the green or the orange, if you know what I'm saying, not the color of yourself physically. And you wonder at the same time, is a vision beyond 5 years? Or the vision is just within 5 years as we go for elections? We talk about what is the vision at times for education? What is the vision for crime? What is the vision for health? Is there a sort of a coming together of all stakeholders to say, this is the vision that we have for the next 4, 5, 10 years? And as a result of that, whatever changes, whichever government comes into power, that's going to be it. Or is it a 5-year interval? Now, what about that person, that child, looking and seeing the vision that I have? Will the Prime Minister's vision of building houses and giving houses over to people who really need houses, will that go if there's a new government? If something is doing well, will it go? And then there's also this thing about Vision 2030, whereby it was supposed to be a bipartisan or a united factor whereby everyone come together and they build to see the vision of the nation. Where is that? You know? And then we talk about the constitution reform again. Where is that? Are we bringing the people with us? So that's what I'm saying, having a frank conversation, because when we talk about the people, and I say the people, and this goes anywhere, the people are just one. The people should not be divided by different persons, different divisions. And then again, and I go back again to this whole thing, which I keep speaking a lot of times. I say sometimes my program really sometimes it is not sometimes for that person who is already a part of that 37% that goes out and vote at different elections. They vote for the green, they vote for the orange, or they vote, and they will never change no matter what. But what about those other persons? That's 63%. That's 70% that do not go out and vote. Where are they to make that fundamental difference and that fundamental change? You know, that's my thought today. And tonight I'm going to have Mr. Shamar Bryan. He's an attorney at law from Jamaica, young gentleman. I was asking him about some musics earlier from Jamaica, if he knew it, and I realized, oh, young Easy doesn't know. but at the same time, this is Talk and Sip Saturday night, and I'd like to ask you what you're drinking. I've got this glass which is called Stella Artois. It says Stella Artois, but really and truly, even though it says Stella Artois, it is not. It's just not beer. I'm just drinking sparkling water. And if you are drinking, just tell me what you're drinking tonight. Patty lady, you can tell me if you're having a patty or so. So I'm just having. I see some people on internet sometimes they have something close and they're making them sparkling sounds and or whatever like that. So that's it there. But I'm going to invite Mr. Shamar Bryan shortly, and then we start. But let me know what you're drinking, ladies and gentlemen. Those on Instagram, those on Facebook, those on YouTube. Thank you. Hey, good evening, Shamar Bryan.
Good evening, Mr. Sidio. How you doing?
I'm cool. I hope I didn't disrespect you by saying you look a boy. You know what I mean? You look a pitney. When I was asking if you know about Ken Booth, you know what I mean? You shelter me from storm, let me walk.
That's really from my parents' generation, but I do love some of the hits. Like you see, a good I Win. Yeah, Wayne Marshall, definitely.
What do you say? I don't know these persons. These are what? These are younger persons.
No.
But listen, thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on tonight, because I was speaking to my good friend David Chen earlier today, and I was trying to figure out what to talk about sometimes, and I realized frank discussion and heart-to-heart discussion is sometimes very important when you look at the nation, and also it's very important to engage with the youths, like us. Like I'm a young chap like yourself. You know what I'm saying?
But of course,
we have to engage and have this discussion. But first and foremost, I want to actually ask you. I'm going to ask you this question. As a young attorney, what's your vision for Jamaica?
My vision, and I am so glad that you asked that, Silver. My vision for Jamaica is actually what we used to be sometime not too far ago, where you could have looked on the city of downtown Kingston, right where the courts are, and it was impressive. The roads were clean. Everybody was so kind to each other. There was a state of unity that we have far strayed from. And that's really what I want to get us back to, where we as a people are not really looking towards color, whether it be orange, green, or what have you.
Yes.
It's more so to the unified goal of being your brother's keeper. And I think that's an excellent terminology, yes.
No, that's very interesting, and it's good that you said that and you sort of set the stage about that. uh, I was listening to a gentleman, Sir Alfred Sangster, who passed away. He was the principal of CAST, which was CAST and UTech. I did a couple of years there, and one of the things that I heard is one of his sons said. His son said that this is the last of a certain generation of integrity and so like that. The last, and I said the last, and I'm saying if that's the last, then what are we embarking on, Shamar? What are we embarking on then if that's the last of a generation? But you use the word of integrity and substance and so like that. What are we saying of the leaders that we have today? What are we talking about? The baton which has been passed down to the next set of leaders, next set of persons. And as you can see, like, and of course we're using Jamaica as we've touched on different areas, but Jamaica is our point of contact at present moment now. What do you say about that? The new generation of leaders, when they're saying that's a last batch, the new generation, you don't have it, we don't have it.
Boy, when it comes on to that, and it really brings me back to anytime I have a conversation with a fellow like yourself, Silver, who I can learn from. I ask the question: whose generation do you think works harder, yours or mine? Quick question.
Whose generation work harder?
Yes.
No, that difficulty. You know why that's difficult? Because I always believe that every generation has their work cut out, and the next generation have also their work cut out. And I always say that I should be fighting for this generation to prepare the pathway for the next generation, so you are not fighting the battles that I should have fought.
Perfect. And I'm glad that you said that. Paving the way for the next generation. And I think that's where we have fallen short in Jamaica. Because when it comes down to the newer generations, you would understand that the difficulties that we are facing is more so that of access to mentorship. That is my first and foremost point. Because we have an overload of an excess of information now with, different platforms giving you all that you need, but there's no guidance towards it. And I think that's the disconnect that we have with the older generation and what's to come here. We've been left to fend for ourselves, in a sense. And that has caused us to really stray from the ideals of integrity and hard work. Whereas now, with my generation, I can, from a very objective view, I can say that we are more so streamlined into the faster way. So it's like cutting around what we have needed to do to build from A to B. And that's the same thing when it comes on to our forms of leadership now.
So what you're talking, so what you're saying it's like a shortcut. A shortcut is being taken.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
There's no real foundation to build. And where that reflects is not just from the personal level, but at the nation level. There's just no real ground.
Yes. But I was looking at and we always talk about these figures for like the different elections which take place in Jamaica.
Yes.
The last general election, it was I always say this, and I say it deliberately so it can be impressed on people's minds. At the last general election, 37% turnout to vote of the 1.92 million who were eligible to vote. So 37% turnout. So that was just over 700,000. 400 and so thousand, I think, voted for the JLP. 300 and so thousand voted for the PNP. And I always ask this question: where is that 63%? Who are they? Why are they not being a part of the whole process? Because I normally see the 37% as that percentage of persons will always come out and they never change. They always be green or orange, and they're dieharded. But then that 63% normally don't come out. So I ask the question: where is this segment of person? Because if the nation don't move beyond a 10-year, don't go beyond 5 years and go for 10 years, then there's a lack of vision, I believe, in the sense of for education, for crime, and for health, and etc. Because it's like the eyes of politicians, which I believe that lots of people in Jamaica see through, they're not going to go beyond that 5 years, because that 5-year integral is whereby if a government change, then they're going to do like executive orders and change up things and say, we don't like that thing there. So therefore, there's not a collective vision to say we're all working towards from a macro perspective, not maybe the micro. The micro, they can change up certain things, but from a macro perspective, for the crime, that is where we are going. In 10 years' time, that's what we want. So therefore, there's a sit down with both political fraternity and with civil society and have one goal instead of I would say, the war of the words.
The war of the words. That's very interesting. And yes, it does come right back to that. Because as you're saying, because the trend, as we have seen for the past decade or so, is where one party thrives, the other party tries to beat down on. And it's always an issue of accountability. That word is key. Accountability is the main struggle that we have right now in relation to pointing fingers where things should be dealt with, whereas it's not a unified support approach. So the initial point of governance is you have the governing party and then you have the opposition. The opposition is supposed to play this level of critique and support. It's not necessarily supposed to be a rival, which is what we're seeing. It's like a tug of war.
Yeah. And I want to stick a pin right there. In regarding Zelensky and Trump and with the UK is in one accord when it comes on to Zelensky. The opposition supports what the prime minister is doing, and they just give them the support. They give them that blanket support, whereby that's the vision of the UK. So therefore, there's not a tit for tat in regards to that. I'm just using that as one example for argument's sake. So what you're saying is that there's not a element of a togetherness on certain succinct point in politics or policies in Jamaica?
Absolutely, that's it. There is no level of meeting in the middle. There's only that of rivalries and the blame game is, in a sense. It's always this one circle, which is why, as you were speaking earlier, Vision 2030 is harder now to attain because there is no unified approach to it.
And ladies and gentlemen, Vision 2030 was this vision which was pulled together agreed with both political parties through the PIOJ, Planning Institute of Jamaica. I believe it was they were the architect of it. And this was supposed to, a lot of countries have this Vision 2030 thing. I believe it was something with the United Nations or so. But I always say this, Shamar and ladies and gentlemen, I always say this. If there's a Vision 2030 plan, and that is supposed to be that Jamaica become a fully developed country by that time, then therefore in elections, there should not be any manifestos. In a sense, separate and apart from that. You really should, except some of the micro things, but you really and truly, you should all be saying the same thing as to who give better governance, who give better accountability and transparency and integrity in how they're operating. But the bigger picture should remain the same. Exactly. The election issues should be on integrity. Are you managing the whole process? And therefore there should be it is like there should be a fundamental partnership, I believe. We're just having this comment. There should be this fundamental partnership, Shamar, whereby everybody knows where we are going. So therefore, those on this side shouldn't say, boy, things mash up, like I keep hearing all the while. Sometimes, depending on who you're talking to, boy, everything mash up a yard. And the next time you speak to somebody, everything go a yard. And that's why I speak to all the different sides.
Exactly.
But really and truly, it should be a situation whereby one can say, yeah, man, we see where the nation is going. I don't think there's a common ground whereby people can say we see collectively where the nation is going. What do you say about that?
You know, in terms of that, it's really gone from such a far place that it's kind of hard to track at this point right now because of
Mm,
how far off the railroad it's gone. So one of my thoughts, and this is just since we're having frank talk, yes,
yeah, Frank
I
talk.
think
Peter,
yeah,
where's
frank
Peter?
talk.
Somebody say, where's Peter?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've really dwelled on is that in line with the nation building and these far visions, and we're talking more than the 5 years, as you have rightly said,
Mm,
it's having a nation roadmap. Having that nation roadmap gives you that level of transparency as to
mm,
where both parties should be going and tackling, no matter who is in power at that time. So you know
yes.
that there's still clear alignment as to the country and where it's propelling to. That vision roadmap has yet to surface.
Mm.
You can tell me if I'm wrong, but I have
No,
not
no, no, no.
seen a
I
roadmap
really
surface.
said. Mm,
And because of that, it has left us wondering where to go. And that brings you back to your earlier point now in
mm,
relation to the 63%. Because we've developed such a passive aggressive attitude to politics,
yes.
I think the main cause of that is the confusion. The confusion creates the disinterest, and the disinterest creates the passive attitude. So it's much more spectating rather than participating, if you understand what I'm saying.
So therefore, so
You
what?
get me?
So what you're saying is like everyone is, or the majority is sitting on the veranda and watching things going by. Is that a fair?
Yes,
Is that
absolutely.
a fair way of saying it? People are sitting on the veranda watching how things go by instead of actually jumping up and getting up and say, "I want to be a part of that process."
It's like watching a football match, yeah? So instead of being like an active participant on the team, whether you be the coach, the left back, right back, whatever it might be, you're just a spectator because you feel like you have no place within that arena,
Yeah.
which is contrary to everything that politics go towards.
Mm,
Because the basis of where we are as a country and any democratic society is that each person is relevant to the decision making of that country and its road to where it shall be within that
yeah.
next 5, 10, 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I see. I see, and I hear what you're saying. And would you say the views that you're sort of spewing out or saying is a view which is a part of what lots of young people are saying?
I would think so. When it comes on to the younger generation, well, my generation, I would say we want to have an active part of it, but it comes back to what I was saying earlier. There is
Yeah.
a lack of guidance, and there just feels like no real entry point into the system. So if
Yeah.
you were never really born into it, or let's say you had a family that was purely into this political hemisphere where they would always be on TV telling you about the news, what's happening, then you, as a youngin growing up, you would just have no real basis as to what to follow, what is right, or what way you want to go in, because it all comes back down to the ideals of the party that you're following, and then aligning it to your own beliefs. So if you can't conceptualize your own beliefs at the basic level, then
Mm,
how can we expect our young persons to then conceptualize that belief at the higher level when it really matters and going to vote? Unless it's, of course, persons are saying
yeah.
that these young persons should just go. And the perfect example, a lot of the voting strategies that have been out have been purely on the PR side of things. If you've seen, there are a lot of songs, lots of PR stunts really when it
Yeah.
comes down to gaining attention and attraction. So
Mm,
is it that we're saying that the younger generations, they should be moved to vote based on how good the PR is, or
mm.
is it how good the plan, the vision is?
The substance. Because like when it comes on to the whole aspect of constitution reform, and I was in Jamaica April last year, and I went to all the different schools. Went to Orchard's Primary School. I popped up to York Castle High School, and I popped up to Brownson Community College. And I look at these institutions, and I said, all these institutions should have had someone like from the legal fraternity, like yourselves, volunteering to go down and talk a session on constitution reform. It should be something which is permeating right through society, not just a few, not leaving it up to the government and a few or should I say town hall meetings, but it is something that should be permeating because it should be saying, ladies and gentlemen, Jamaica, we are moving towards removing the King of England and letting everybody understand the pros and the cons and why. Because people always say, how that all fill my belly? How that gonna affect me? People ask those questions and I always say it needs to be translated down to persons. How will that affect the price of rice, if anything? And I always say again at the same time, something of this nature also turns off persons who are of a different political persuasion because they say, sure, a GLP I push it. Oh, PNP has said them no want that. And then all of a sudden, it's a bangarang. It become a war of the words. When it is something which should have been a collective thing, setting it out there for the advancement. I was going to say of the whole human race, but for the advancement of the Jamaican race.
yes. You're spot on. But that's the thing. What you just said takes back to the basic principles of building a society. It starts at the smallest level, within the schools, within the families. But where we are as a society, our main responsibility is passing down this information, passing down the guidance. You see, it always comes back to the guidance, and that's where we're lacking. It comes back to the guidance and bringing it within the schools, because whereas, persons can be off on a frolic of their own when it comes down to their personal time, school is something that is traditionally catered to. So once we hit it at the school level, like at the earliest stages when they can conceptualize these things, like primary going into high school, then that is the baseline to really start having these discussions.
I just have someone on Instagram, because I'm sort of on TikTok, saying, dare I say, large companies should be creating apprenticeships for the indigenous people to grow. There's a growing population coming into the work. Okay, I think Graham is in the UK. Graham, I think, are you referring to the UK? There's a growing population coming into the workplace with third level education. That is, I believe, is something which is not just relating to overseas, to the UK. Because they're saying lots of people who are coming into the workforce now, they are not really that much educated.
Yes, and that's really a sad case that we've been facing.
And actually, he's referring to Jamaica. He says he's referring to Jamaica.
And you're spot on, because I think the situation is so more vast and it is an affecting situation mainly on our men. If you look at the statistics, and I was having this conversation not too long ago, today actually, when it comes on to our youth coming up, you realize that the men are some more staying away from the path of, the traditional route of education through primary, secondary, tertiary. So
yes,
we find it as a concern, but can we answer that question though? Why is it that, especially if I were to use my profession as an example, the profession of law, it used to be a male-dominated arena, whereas now, flip side, in 2025, it is a female-dominated arena in all aspects, in the judiciary, in the clerks, everything. So, is it that we are having a widespread problem only with the youth, or is it more so in a particular section of the youth? If you follow where I'm going, Sylvan.
Yeah. I see where you're going, because it's also worldwide. I mean, in the UK now, they talk about like women are more advancing than men at the same time. And actually, I should never say this. I was watching some videos the other day with some guys dancing, and I was saying, them guys don't look really too manly. So I should
I think I might know what you're talking about.
It's like something is lacking. There's a force, or there's a strength or something like that which is lacking in society in a way,
Yes.
and I'm saying, and that is why maybe I don't know, something is amiss, bro. Something is amiss, and I think it goes back to the point about the role models and about passing the baton down and about bringing people up,
Exactly.
taking the next generation, as that song which was in that movie, what's her name, sing, take my people with me, take my people with
Yes.
me, over that threshold there, I believe that is something which is important and is lacking. But at the same time, as I'm speaking it, I try to make sure that what I'm doing, putting myself out there and speaking, is hoping to sort of empower and challenge persons to be able to think. So we have a responsibility, because when you look at it again at the same time, and you look at different bloggers and the groups and which are out there, and I realize, I say, hang on a second, well, that person don't really inspires me. But at the same time, that person have tons of followers.
Yes. 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 You make an incredible point, Silburn. And Silburn, what's your take on it? In
Mm,
terms of what we have nowadays, in terms of our access to information, you saw the whole big issue with TikTok the other day, with it being
yes.
banned from America, and
Mm,
the reasons behind its ban. The reason on the face of it was that of security issues.
yes, with China, yeah. Having access to all
Yes.
this, yeah.
And the underlying issue now was being the quality of the content being fed to America's people.
Mm,
What do I
mm,
mean by that? The content is not so progressive in terms of assisting or encouraging learning. It's
yes,
more so assisting or encouraging an attitude of either procrastination, or just like I had mentioned earlier, the get rich quick scheme,
yeah,
possibly.
yeah.
For yes.
I you know I believe fundamentally this. I believe that freedom of expression is so important. But at the
Yes.
same time, with freedom of expression, I believe there's also responsibility that one has to have. And I believe at the same time, the reason why there's a rise in the level of information which is going out is because of those who are putting out that information realize that there's an appetite for it. So the question you got to ask, because these guys move with certain things. So therefore, you got to ask yourself a question: why is that appetite so strong for rubbish? In advertisement of saying that, why is that appetite so strong when it comes on to issues of substance? Also, that's not like sexy, you know, things which are very frivolous that will go very far. So therefore, you've got to ask yourself the question: why is that appetite? Because shutting down information, I'm not a supporter of shutting down information, even with the whole thing regarding um, SSL and in Jamaica, and they're trying to shut down different persons. And even the Deputy
Yes.
Public Prosecution, DPP, came out and said, oh, because this case is going on now and we don't want to affect the case, people are going to tone it down. I'm saying, come on, give me a break. Anytime it comes on to try to shut down information, I said, listen, let the people them talk. But if they talk
Right.
and they slander and defame, sue them backside. It's a responsibility. Those who speak and their
Absolutely.
opinions also, there's a responsibility for that. So therefore, I think based on the question that you ask, I believe we are persons who believe that such information is not powerful or or educational, then we need to come out and be a difference and come out and do it. I always say to people a while, come on to the show, come on and talk. And they'll say, oh boy, I don't want to
Yeah.
say anything, very. Everybody's shy. I say, yeah, but you need to say it. You need to come out and say some of the things that you want to say.
Absolutely. And stick a pin right there, Sylvan.
Yeah.
So
Mm,
staying on the same topic, because I
mm,
don't want to stray too far now.
yeah.
What do you think would be the effect if we made nation building and the whole political atmosphere as attractive as the information that's going around on TikTok? What do you think would change? What do you think would happen?
What would happen is that people will grow very sturdy. If that information on nation building becomes a sort of part of the fabric of society, then there'll be a sturdiness in growing of the nation, of people, the new generation.
Yes.
Bringing it into some sort of policy thing or so. It's like civics, for argument's sake. Civics is something which I say has been taken out of school, and I've been speaking to some people recently and said, Vanessa is coming on, and I say, listen, I'm going to start to do a program, and maybe I should even invite you to also be one of the persons that come on and say, okay, this week the talk on civics is going to be this chapter. And so therefore, it's not sexy subject, but eventually we got to keep pushing it out and pushing it out. You know what I'm saying?
And then it then translates to the same issue that you brought up earlier in relation to the low voter count. Because once you get this level of sturdiness within the society, then they start moving from that passive aggressive role to a more active level.
Being proactive.
I can tell you, exactly, having that proactive mindset and knowing your value, knowing that you actually contribute, it will make all the difference. And this is a view that I think would be, for lack of words, I'd say it would be excellent in terms of an approach. Because I'm telling you, in the age of, my generation, the real trick is getting through on the social media platform and then playing the game. Because the game is no longer your game in a Silver.
Yes.
The game is now mine. So you can't expect to use the same tactics from your game to reach out to my generation.
Yeah. Yes. She's trying to sort herself out. Yeah. No, you're right about that, and I want to pick up a couple of things here. Somebody said these jobs generally high turnover while it's going through college is a start. Vanessa, how are you doing? You okay?
I'm doing fine. I'm ready. I was just
ready. Meet Shamar Bryan, and Vanessa McLean, a fellow attorney, both lawyers and so like that. We're all lawyers here tonight.
I'm a legal policy analyst.
Legal policy analyst, Vanessa McLean. You know, Vanessa, you got 30 minutes, yes? Oh, what? You don't have much time now, isn't it?
No.
Yeah. Yes, I was just looking at the whole issue of the vision for a nation for Jamaica. Is it constrained by 5 years, 5-year intervals? And Vision 2030, which is supposed to be something which is collective, is now deemed to be something which is highly unlikely or will not be possible, isn't it, Shamar? What you heard of recent days, you know?
No.
Yeah. So therefore, things are constrained within that 5-year period. Vanessa, it doesn't go beyond, because the one party will not give out their manifestos or what they plan for Jamaica, because the other party will.
But really, have these manifestos been manifested?
Yes.
What are you keeping a secret? The lies that you are professing, the propaganda, because I cannot see all of these promises that they make coming through. Can you name me one thing that they have? Shamar and yourself might be more conversant than me. If you all can tell me like 1 or 2 things from these manifestos that you can see, from a policy perspective that is implemented, that is really taking us for years now. We've had all of these plans by politicians that have failed. Is it that we are unrealistic? Is it that we lack the monies? Is it that we lack the abilities? Why is it that these manifestations in these manifestos, I mean, you tell me 2 things that they've done. I can't remember. Anyone can remember?
Shamar is one who's in Jamaica.
Okay, I mean, I'll be real with you, Vanessa. When it comes on to these manifestos, really and truly, you don't start, and it's a trend. You don't start to see any real effects until the term is coming to an end, and then
Oh,
you see everybody start buck and shuffle and start try for rush and do everything. That's the trend that I've been picking up.
So
So I
therefore,
can't particularly.
therefore, the site, the you have a project. Then the manifest says a project. You have a lot of project managers in government that manage these projects because each item of a manifesto, and then you have you're evaluating the horizon now of these projects or these manifestations, and you are saying that they don't run a full cycle to be implemented properly. Their cycle begins towards election and they are finishing. So I want to know what is really going on then. What are we paying taxes for if you cannot get a single thing done because you cannot set time limits and adhere to them and get results? What are we really voting for?
And Vanessa, you make an excellent point, and it goes back to what Sylvan and I were speaking about earlier, where there is this sense of a lack of unity, whereas one term starts and a new one were to begin, then it's like a fresh slate. So there's no continuity.
An
So
executive
it
order
just,
just
it
wipe
just
it
falls
off.
off.
An executive
Exactly.
order, Vanessa, just wipe it off.
Well, these people have executive orders and they're using them. It's an interesting way, to see what it can be done with executive orders and how businessmen implement policies and wipe them out. And, and the American system is an example now of how the attorney generals would be waiting with their pens should the president step on certain rights. And, what can be done. We don't seem to be using executive orders. We have things in the pipeline and they're not getting done. You see how quickly things can really get done, that you would say if it were some other lawyers that believe in due process, that concept of due process that lawyers use, and how due process can be helpful when you want to get evidence and slow things down from a policy perspective.
Yes.
But when there's a need for, some parties have been inside forever, and somebody was just making the point that that generation of how they did things, because if our generation were to ever get there before we are walking on Zimmer frame, I'm sure we would be quicker. Is it the fact that we have a lot of old people that are slow in the brain and slow on the feet and slow in how they do things? I'm beginning to check their mental capacity in relation to whether they are up for the job, because Jamaica used to own Cayman Islands and all of those places. We were forward in the backward days. But for some reason, we still have these old people that have done what they can do. And if they didn't do it all along, I don't see. Even then, let us get some fresh old people and let them take some ashwagandha that help with brain fog. Perhaps we need to check their diets as well. I don't know.
Or the water they're drinking.
Well, Jamaica has one of the best pH. What I think, and I think these people, you can only, I say they have, I don't know if they have a global perspective, except they leave Jamaica to go to meetings they've never lived. China sent people out for years to study other countries, and those other democracies are not, well, you wouldn't call them a democracy, or those countries send people outwards to find things out that have to stay there for years. We only send their children out to go to Oxford and Cambridge for 4 years. They go and they study theory and they come back. I'm just saying that, and even so, when they come back, they tend to live under their parents' shadow. Because it's clear to me that they don't have the ability, and so they are now turning to manipulation of the masses and using short timelines to implement things that should have been done for ages. So that's the concern that I have a lot of questions that I can't answer. Nobody on this forum can answer. And I really think, when you have a debate, you have a national debate that they pick who they want to pick, and the third party members are not invited to this debate. Frankly speaking, I think the panel from facilitators for a better Jamaica should be part of this debate, where you have persons like myself and this young man here and other people that are tough people to ask tough questions, so that they know that some of us want the answers. and
Yes.
we want the plans. And as you say, it is civic society, and us young people, because we want to run to America. We want,
Yes.
and the president of America said, we are having our own challenges. I am using TikTok and culture to sort out the economy. We can't see anything like that in Jamaica being used.
Mm.
And, I have some tough questions. And I don't want you to come just talk, because it's become a talk shop. I
Yes.
want to see a man with a pen, with having pen, and say, when me write this thing, I saw it, I go. And
Mm.
everybody knows he's ruthless. He said, I don't want any transgender. Somebody from Maine comes up and she says, oh, I want, and he said, listen, I will cut you down with the funding. And he stood up.
Yeah.
Now, how are we educating our youth? I went to a religious, like a church the other day, and the session was all about what are we inputting in the youth in relation to the universe design, intelligence, civics, and to make the young people do different and think differently.
Mm.
It was all about that, because I gave an example. I said to them, a child has to be trained up in the way he should go, like the Bible says, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. For example, um, who are we training? How are we training our children to run away, not to be disrespectful and of our culture, or we just keep events and we're not using the culture can make money,
Yeah.
because I gave an example and I said youth education is very important, because I said you don't know where young people can get to. For
Mm.
example, our son becomes a president, and the only thing he will implement that makes sense possibly is the fact that men are men, women are women. And he turned the Bible upside down and said, I do not want any man thinking that him is woman and otherwise. And that is the only thing from him upbringing that he has done that makes sense. But it makes perfect sense, because if America is heading into war, I made a point. And for example, or any country, let's use Jamaica as an example. Jamaica is heading for war because we have the largest port in the world, and somebody might decide they want to come and take it, and we have to defend it. And you will decide that you're going to put women who behaving like men at the front of the battlefront, and all these other people coming have men with different strength. What do you think is going to happen when you have sissy men at the front of a battle, women, or whatever you want to call them?
Mhm.
You're socializing them like this. How are we training our children with civics and rights, and what pressures are we putting on the ministry? Well, we can start to teach, and we will hope that children have devices to learn, but we want this in a compulsory setting. We have
Yeah.
to also apply this. We will do it online. Yes, it's all well and good that we started, but I think we also need to write to the government, lobby, sign a petition that this has got to be on the curriculum. We want it, because children have to be socialized and educated.
Yeah.
For
I, Vanessa, I'm mindful of you want to go, and there's a cultural bit that we wanted to do before you go, because you say you got, we're gonna pause for a second, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're drinking or something like that. But we saw this sort of something for Black is not what Reggae Month.
yeah,
Ken Boot was being what was he? What
he
was he
was
celebrated?
awarded the Reggae Gold Award. Well, Ken Booth personally is my dad's friend, and
Yes,
he's visually impaired. And
yes.
despite all
A
this,
huge wonderful standing ovation.
Yeah, keep talking. Yeah, keep talking. Yeah,
he's visually impaired, and you see the legacy that he has left. And he was awarded by the ministry for his years of sheltering people from harm.
yes.
And I'm so proud of him, that these people are the greatest things that we could that we could have in our country.
Yes. No, I was listening to it, and I was reading, and I've been playing this song a lot today,
I appreciate the sickness right now because we're doing so much. So one more time, it's a pleasure, thank you so much. There is a land where blessing waits for us all. And if your heart is clean, I know you will redeem in the land of the black, green, and gold.
There's this other song there which I want you to sing, Vanessa. This is he's gonna play.
You gave my life to me, set me free, set me free. The finest thing I ever knew is all the news I have with you.
Go for it.
Everything I own,
Go for it. Go for it.
So what I would say is that big up the Ministry of Culture. This is reggae,
Yes.
Happy Reggae Month, everyone, for honoring the greats. But I just want to see from a cultural and a monetary perspective, we can
Yes.
celebrate culture, but how to use things of a cultural nature and in a technological nature to enhance our economy is the next steps that I would like to see, taken, because Bob Marley has, he has socialized the world and he's transplanted our culture. And
Yes.
I want to see the manifesto in relation to how the Prime Minister, I've heard him for some time now saying, different things and how we see the culture and how we're going to use the culture. And he makes these droppings of words, but I am yet to see concrete, I'm yet to see this, except for the keeping of events and people come to Jamaica for the sea and the sun, but more Jamaican centric programs,
So
products.
so sing the song, sing the song. Like sing that song for me now.
You sheltered me from harm, kept me warm, kept me warm. You gave your life to me, set me free of all the years I've ever known. The finest years I've had with you, and I would give anything I own. Sing with me. Give up
My life, my heart,
my own. I would give anything
everything,
I own just to
just to have you
have once
once again.
again.
I like the
If
video.
there's
If there's
someone
someone
you
you know, yeah,
know, I say this to Jamaican people.
yes.
There's
If
someone
there's
you know that won't let you go. PNP and
and
JLP. And it's taking it all for
for
granted.
granted
They must lose you one day. A party take them away.
away,
And you won't
don't
hear nothing
hear a word they
from
say,
them. Thank you.
and I will give
Woo-woo.
everything I
I
own.
own
Give
lights
up my
out.
My
life,
life,
my
my heart,
my
my home.
home.
My home.
I
I
would
will
give
give
everything
everything
I
I
I
own
own.
just to
just to
have
have you
you back
back
again.
again.
Just
Just
to
to
talk to
have
you
you
about words.
back again. Big up Ken Boot.
Yeah, man. Up.
Marley, you know,
I'm sorry?
Bob Marley, Bob Marley, the reggae pioneer. I mean, Bob Marley was given a Grammy recently. I don't think they gave Bob Marley any of the reggae gold. I guess, he's gotten a lot though,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because Bob Marley's words speaks about the emancipation of slavery. Do not
Yes.
enslave ourselves to systems, parties, groups
Yes.
that mentally that we just cannot get away from them mentally. They must know that another party can come in, and then these two that they will know that okay, let us fix up, because nothing is wrong with the parties. It's the people in them need to behave and do what they are elected to do. Yeah.
Well said, Vanessa. You have to go now? Are you
Thank
all right?
Yeah, I got to go. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Nice meeting you, Shamar.
Shamar.
Thank you so much for
The pleasure is all mine, Vanessa.
Bless you. Bye.
Bye-bye, Vanessa. Take care of yourself.
Guidance.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you. Well, that
Wow.
was the highlight. That was the highlight I was waiting for it to do, because I was listening to that Ken Booth song.
Yes.
So much to play. I can't even play it. I can't even play it, because if I play it, the copyright will impact me. So I might actually do a reaction and do one of my videos and do a karaoke. Who knows? I might just do a karaoke later. Vita, what I'll deal with Chop on Media, Walk On Star, and things like that. So chopping block, big up. But yeah, brethren, I want to just play before I go into the section. I want to just play a bit of something which took place in America. And I just want to get your reaction to it as well, because I believe it is very important. There's some message or so from it. Let me just remove this bit here. Sorry, what's that? That's that. Let me just play this and just for there you go.
Accept to American people. Accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's very important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards. You're buried there. Your people are dying. You're running low on soldiers. Listen, you're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I wanted this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
With guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
And let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the.
All right. What's your take on this? What's your take on it? Just a reaction. This is something I couldn't do the show without just bringing it in for a second. Vita, you're in the States. What's going on over there? Come in to the show, Vita. Yeah. Go on, Shamar.
I mean, Silbert, you see, there are a few angles you can take it from. At one perspective, it looks like a father talked to his son. From one perspective of it, and through the other perspectives, they're trying to get through to what the meat of the matter is. But Zelensky is not really holding his own on that point. But the point that President Trump brings about is the whole issue of transparency. And transparency is key to any nation.
Yes.
But yeah, for the most of it, I mean, it just seemed like very one-sided to me. If anything.
I look at it in a way, and Graham, what you say, and Vita, and what persons may say about how I look at it was, it's one of the first times that you're seeing live and in living color what is happening behind the scene, if anything like that. Things like, I'm sure you have shouting matches happen behind the scene or so, but normally you only get a perspective from the press, the reporters, but you're seeing something live in living colors here. I listen, personally, I believe it is better there's war of the words than war of the world. Right. It is better that there's war of the, so, and in a way, this diplomacy, in a way, while it is good, and I believe in being a diplomat, I'm not a diplomat. Yes. People always say, would you be a ambassador? I say, I don't think I'm cut out for those sort of things. But diplomacy sometimes can also be spinning. There's a world of spinning. They like to spin things. But right here now, you're seeing authentic. Yes. Many people are, many people are having a different sides. I'm glad how Zelensky held his own. And yes. when Trump said to him one time, Trump said to him, "You don't have any cards." And Zelensky said, I'm not playing cards.
What was that? Serious thing. a serious thing. No, because genuinely, but sometimes, and this is just my genuine perspective,
Yeah.
when it comes on to the transparency factor of things, there has to be a striking balance because
Yeah.
for many onlookers, seeing political discussions that determine a country's state of affair, it might bring into question the confidence in your diplomat.
Yes. Something I was thinking about today, and I think I saw some. So Graham said I thought Zelensky was ill prepared. He knew the position that Trump was coming from. You know, That's something I was thinking about the other day, and somebody said it. I was trying to share the article, but I couldn't share it for some reason. But
Mhm.
by Trump going in or America going into Ukraine to somehow mine and be a part of the world structure, it somewhat prevents Russia from wanting to attack there because Americans are there. Now, the thing about it is that
Yeah.
Trump don't want Zelensky to be a part of NATO because the collective with NATO, if you hit one, you hit all,
Yes, exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So therefore, that would put a face-off between America and Russia. And then China will come into play if anything like that. So in a way, there's a brinkmanship which I see which is happening here now. This is not about eggs and the 35 billion there. There's a bigger picture which I'm seeing in this whole picture there, this whole game. And I believe that they had to do it that way because if they don't, you're gonna have a situation whereby Zelensky keep prolonging this war. Well, when I say prolonging this war, I believe the war should have been stopped for a long
Yeah.
time. Really, and I'm trying to say
Yeah.
because it just, as a matter of fact, I was thinking the other day and said, "What's the sense?" I did a video. I'm gonna post it here. What's the sense of fighting over land when all you're gonna have is ashes to ashes and dust to dust? What's the sense of fighting over material things? I was thinking about the other day. Everybody's trying to fight over land, fight over immigration, and all those sort of things. You're not going to have it. You're not going to take it away. The most important thing is death and bodies, killing unnecessary. In the Gaza Stretch with Israel, why this wanton killing of persons? That's how I look at it. And I'm saying, so I'm with Trump when he said, I just want peace. I just want peace. I don't care. Just let's have some peace, man.
And Trump was making a point as well,
Yeah.
And it was really to the core of it as to America's involvement. He
Yes.
was saying that if America had not stepped in, then Ukraine wouldn't have lasted even like 3 days.
They wouldn't have lasted. They wouldn't have lasted.
That's how it really, and it's just history repeating itself, You see where it's going. Because America historically has been the police of the world, for
Yes.
argument's sake. When they've been stepping in here, there, and now it goes back to your earlier point before I came on in relation to US aid. America being the world's police officer or supervisor, for want of a better word. And it just goes to show, are we allowing America to do this?
Yes.
Or is it a case of our own self-reliance? We can't back it up, whatever we're trying to do.
You said something earlier, though. You said something, though, that what this displayed was the similarities. Well, different countries have their different meetings. In America, okay, we are seeing a little upheaval. In the UK, you have prime minister's question time when they're banging and they're having shouting match sometimes. And you're saying in some countries they got fists. Some countries they got fists, isn't it?
Yes. Stomp it out,
Yeah, some countries you got fists. So but the whole thing now, and I've always saying this, and I like to hear your views on this one, and I like to hear other person's views as well. In the advent of what's happening in America now regarding the pausing of USAID, with lots of charities have been affected, lots of persons are losing their income. The UK is now also going to cut overseas and development aid in order to spruce up defense. The big question I say is this: in light of this, which is happening, shouldn't Caribbean CARICOM countries, Africa, seek to be self-reliant? Didn't we learn something during the COVID period that we need to actually try to develop ourselves?
And that's an excellent point there, Silver. And it begs to ask the question if we really truly learned anything from COVID. Because, from COVID, there was this big standstill on the entire world economics. So moving from that, is it a case where we learned from it to a point? So we became self-reliant, for argument's sake, for maybe 1-2 years. And then we became complacent after a sense of normalcy came back to light. So is it a case where we see that there's a safety net, and then because of that safety net, we tend to undermine our own progression to self-reliance? The closest nation within the Caribbean that I can say is closest, or if not already self-reliant, is that of Barbados, because Barbados really took the lead on that. They went straight from A, B, C, D. Like, they didn't skip any steps, but they went along that steady progression, because I believe they learned the best in terms of coming from the COVID era as to their own backline. So having that plan B, which is the importance right there. But what happened to the rest of the Caribbean? What happened to the rest of the world? Because if it's a case where now we have a situation where USAID has been removed, it puts you back in this to somewhat of a similar context of when COVID hit, because it's hitting without warning. And it's this hitting without warning that really that really hurts most persons. So isn't that we're trying to avoid that building to a place where we can have our own safety net rather than depending on other nations?
Yes. And how do you okay, CARICOM the other day, okay, Barbados and I believe, I don't know if it was St. Vincent, are one of those two countries which on the corruption transparency index or whatever is top. I mean to say they're one of the best. And I believe that one should look at them as what should I say, the best practices. And I believe that CARICOM together they could all learn, because Jamaica is down there with corruption index really at the same time, isn't it? Even though they said it didn't move recently, but best practices whereby they can come together and they can build together and can work together, supporting of Haiti. And I believe that we're actually missing out on something if we don't take hold of this particular moment where a rug is being pulled from under us. We need to say that we should develop. But you said something earlier about the new generation of persons. They're like a quick fix. They don't want to work hard. So therefore, when it comes on to farming, you got to dig, you got to plow, you got to wait, you got to water. Do anybody want that, or they just want to stick it in the microwave?
Right. I mean, I think, would it be a case where, well, no, I know what it is. It's a case where we may not be working particularly harder, but now we are working smarter to an extent. We're using technology, because there's actually this company that I saw recently. I think they're drone crops. They use drone technology to crop or spray pesticides across the field, which essentially turns a day of work into about an hour, roughly.
Okay.
So having our generation using their level of even AI technology, because you see that the world is more now in the AI realm, using this technology to find different ways and implement to the sustainable growth of the nation would be the key factor. Because if, let's say, we were faced with something like Hurricane Beryl again, because from Beryl there was a widespread disaster on the agricultural sector, which had food prices going through the roof.
Yes.
So it's implementing these different factors that we have now that you might not have had before to now use towards sustainable development. And I think my generation might have a lot more entrepreneurs to bolster that fact, but I think they lack the support. So we have more entrepreneurs, we have more vision builders, but I don't think they have as much support as they would need to put it forward at that nation level.
Yes, yes, yes. So therefore, what we're talking about then is a way how government, because you see, when I say government sometime, and this is the thing that people need to understand, when we say government, we're not talking about JLP or PNP. We're talking about
Right.
government, you know, you know,
Governments.
government. So therefore, when government implement a policy or something like that, it's not a JLP or a PNP policy. It's a government policy because government is for the nation, irrespective if you voted whichever way. It's a government. I just wanted to drop that one in all a while because sometimes when we say government, people say JLP do this, PNP do this, and I say no, 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 no. The government is the government of the nation, irrespective whether you
Exactly.
vote for them or not. And so therefore, there need to be some sort of ways whereby government come alongside the people through the different aspect. And as someone said earlier, with businesses, PSOJ, it's like there's a battle cry. There should be a rally cry for a nation moving together, not seeking to be divided. Because we're in this period of division. That's where we are
Yes,
now.
yes, yes,
There's a
yes,
massive
yes.
period of division now. You're gonna have people, the war of the worlds, the war of the word, and there's going to be massive division until this election. Then after that election, you're going to have to try to. It's going
Yeah.
to be so hypocrite. This is what is so hypocritical. I tell you what is a hypocrite. What is hypocrisy or what is hypocritical is when after an election, a leader gets up there after he did 5 weeks, 6 weeks of cussing each other and division. We're here to unite. We want to unite everybody. And it's
Absolutely.
and it's always the same thing all the while. We want to unite everybody. And that is why I believe, and I clear your views on this on persons, I believe that it is very important for there to be an executive president with the full trappings and the underpinning by constitutional reform than a ceremonial president. Because a ceremonial president, depending on which government has more persons, if the two leaders do not agree, the one with the majority can simply push that person aside and get their man in
But
or the woman in.
absolutely, absolutely.
So therefore, there need to be an executive president underpinned by constitution reform, underpinned by, because there's a MP in the UK of recent days. He punched someone down and he's got a 10. I think he's got some custodial sentence, but it's been what should I say? It's been postponed. But there's going to be a recall. And if you get 10% of that constituency, there's going to be a by-election, if anything, and they recall him. He's been encouraged to step down. Do they have that in Jamaica, bro? Do they, Shamar? If a man,
That's the thing.
if somebody take up a stool for argument's sake and punch up them wife or them girlfriend, I'm not calling any names, is is there some sort of some punishment for that?
And you see, that goes back to the core of it in a Silbern. The whole factor of accountability. And I think you would have had interactions with JAMP, Jamaica Accountability.
Jeanette, yes.
Yes. And I think that's probably one of the excellent examples as to institutions that should be backed, especially within this time, to have a bit of a supervisory role when it comes on to these things. And when it comes on to having an executive versus ceremonial appointed person, well, not even appointed through the democratic process, then it always comes back to the merits of the matter. Do we just want a figurehead? Do we just want somebody to hold that place in terms of saying what the majority says? Or do we want to have real leadership, real empowerment, and a real way forward? Because if it's only ceremonial, then we just go back to square one. Nothing changes.
All that happening is just that this somebody will just at King's House, blah blah blah, Lady Musgrave. well, they want to change it from Lady Musgrave because that's all. Listen. My philosophy is this: if you really want to let go, just let go. Do you believe that the CCJ is not ready? I mean, we had some discussions because there was the head of the
Mhm.
CCJ at a lecture one time with yourself. Do you believe the
Yes.
CCJ is ready to take
No, you
over?
see, and that's an excellent thing that which would come out which should come
Mm.
automatically when there is constitutional, reform, because the
And the
the
removal of the king,
significance of that.
removal of the king of England as the head of state. With the
Yes,
removal
yes,
of the
yes.
king, yes. Uh-huh.
Absolutely. So the thing about it now is it is more than just the benefits of having a final appellate court within or reach,
Mm.
because the differences, and the Honorable Justice Adrian Saunders had given such a an excellent lecture on the differences and the reasons of moving towards the CCJ. It
Yes,
really was more to the fact of identity.
yes,
Identity. Identity is so important because when these cases are tried in the UK before the Privy Council, the
mm.
one thing that I've seen in all these cases is the difficulty to relate to the Caribbean situation. There
Mm.
is no homage to it, and therefore it is harder to put it in the context. Whereas, sure, I mean, everybody likes the Privy Council because of the status it held back in the
Yeah.
day and coming up. But now we are going towards separating and progressing within our own standard.
Mm.
And we can't progress within our own standard if we still have the Privy Council as our final appellate court. Yes, they still do have merit when it comes down to deciding cases. However,
Mm.
the CCJ has more than developed their jurisprudence and going to that that well of experience in dealing with these cases from within our jurisdiction and having them decided within the principles of law, coming down to the impartial jury and having those matters dealt with. So
What
definitely they are more than capable.
what about the argument about the close proximity with the judiciary with each other, and that the issues like vibes cartel would never happen if you never had something like the Privy Council, and being one of the arguments for retaining the Privy Council is because of the using the vibes cartel as an example.
But that you see that argument is more so based on objectivity. But
Mm.
when it comes to the core of any judiciary, the objectivity matter is always going to be at the forefront. So whether it is at the Privy Council or at CCJ, the
Yeah.
principles of the law would still hold to the
Apply.
same.
Mm.
Exactly.
Mm.
So there are more, if you put it on a balancing scale, which is what we love to do. We love to put things on a balancing scale. You see the pros, you see the cons. The pros of having the CCJ is going to always outweigh the cons. And I think that's where most persons fall down in the argument because they just don't know. That's just simply it. It comes down to the factor of information. And like I said, some persons still do have a bias with the Privy Council based on its history.
Mm. And do you believe that young people are not persons in the legal fraternity because they would have an interest, especially with constitution persons in constitution law? This is like an exciting moment for them, you know. Um, the average young persons, are they intrigued or excited from your perspective on this constitution reform, removing the king as head of state? From your perspective
Well,
in Jamaica?
from my perspective, I think my generation might not be so deep in it as to weighing the pros and cons as I would have just done.
Yes.
However, they are interested more so to the factor of culture and identity,
Yes.
because the idea of still being attached to England in such a way that we're on that under that monarchy, it stifles or well identity in terms of culture. So I think that's where we stand. And Marcus Garvey, he in many of his speeches would have touched on the point of how important it is to have the upright standard of black excellency, black
Yeah.
culture, and the nation's culture, and being so independent that that nation is able to strive on their culture alone without being dependent on any other nation.
Now, what do you say when persons say, how does this affect the price of rice? How does removing the king as a head of state affect the price of rice? How does it affect the price of rice? What is
Well, Silver.
what is identity and culture and removing the king? How does it affect? If someone asks that question, can you translate that down to me, Shamar? Why?
You see, Silver, you've now taken the argument to another level, which might be some slippery ground for some. But for argument's sake, the way it affects the price of rice is the removal itself may or may not, because we're not so sure as to the final effects. But the king himself has acknowledged us based on the meetings between him and our prime minister.
Yeah.
And the relationship is key because of several factors in terms of benefits that we would have gotten from the UK. Benefits might be a bit of a, however I want to say it, but the key thing is, are we able, and this is the key question, are we able to stand alone as we are right now? It comes back to the Vision 2030 argument. Are we able to stand alone? And I think that would have been a similar argument back when we were chartering the bill for independence. Were we able to go off on our own at that time? Did we leave from England at an appropriate time? Is it an appropriate time now for us to depart from them? My answer is yes.
Yes. Now I bring up this question now when we hear stand alone. Many will say, you're not really going to be standing alone because you're still going to be part of this Commonwealth bloc.
Of course.
And I always say this all the while. What's the sense of being a part of the Commonwealth bloc if you're leaving? If you just leave. Because at the end of the day, I believe the Commonwealth, okay, I'm in England. The king might not be happy with what I'm going to say, but I believe the Commonwealth just really holding on to the last bastion, the last relics of slavery, of colonialism. So you can say, I'm the head of all these countries, these nations, like Canada. When someone said, how will the king view you, Mr. Trump, when you go and visit him and you're trying to take away his reign? Canada. You see what I'm trying to say? How will you know? So the whole thing about it is that how does it, when he says stand alone in this world now, Shamar, whereby you've got all these different interrelationships, you got CARICOM.
Yes,
So
exactly,
really and truly,
exactly.
So really and truly, you're not standing alone. Someone just said to me, "What is the Commonwealth?" Omalo, what is the Commonwealth? You answer that. You answer that, Omalo, and I'll come back to you. Yeah, you don't really stand alone. It doesn't even make a difference because the king, just like in law,
yes,
with conventions, people say the king is in charge of England. No, the prime minister write this. The government write the speeches. My government is going to do this. King didn't write it one hoot. He's just told what to do. If the prime minister lose an election or whatever like that, they say to the king, Keir Starmer has now got the confidence and the majority, so he goes over and the king just say, "Hey, my good boy," blah blah blah. They have a conversation. they have a conversation once. They have a conversation once. Is it once a week or once a month or something like the prime minister and the king? But it is more conventions. You know, that is why you got Black Rod. That is why you have a situation when opening up Parliament, someone knock on the door, bang, 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 and they say the king has commanded you to come to the House of Lords, and then there's always an MP that says, "Off with his head," and they shut the door back on Black Rod. They shut the door back on because that was something in the past where they said the Parliament didn't like the king having this control over them. So therefore, there's this little ceremonial convention things that happen. So in real terms, King Charles don't really mind if Jamaica said they want to go.
And he said, read to that.
Yeah. So
there's nothing holding us now. Then there's nothing holding us now. Then
nothing holding us.
His views on it. So why are we still at this point in time? And as you rightly said, even if we were to break away, nothing would really change. and we have our CARICOM brothers and sisters all
Yes.
in the game. So
Yes.
it would only give us that benefit of shooting forward. And it
Yes.
just goes right back to everything changing from it. Because once we leave, Silver, that is the trigger effect for many other changes, particularly in policy and
Yeah.
how everything else is done. So now everything else changes.
And of course, you won't get a KC. You will not get
Exactly.
an KC. So you don't mind.
I was actually having a conversation before, with another fellow Caribbean country, and they aren't a part of the monarchy anymore. So instead of calling them King's Council or Queen's Council, they just call them Senior Council, which is the relevant term.
Exactly.
So, nothing really goes back. It's just fancy words that came up of fluff.
Fancy word, the Privy Council, because the person has answered the question. The Commonwealth is nothing more than an organization that works on geopolitical and economic. And also, the Commonwealth means nothing in real terms. And actually, I agree with that, because I had a meeting which was sponsored by the former Attorney General Dominic Grieve at the House of Commons. I chaired it. Ransford, what his name was, a Deputy General Secretary, and we had this discussion. I said, "What is the power of the Commonwealth?" And he says, "Not really. It's subject." He said, "It's not real. There's no real power of the Commonwealth. It is just an organization. Everybody is keeping, and it's a body. It's always good to have a body, and that is why it was very interesting when Jamaica was putting forth Kamina Johnson to be the head of the Commonwealth, and I said, that didn't make sense. You're trying to leave England as the head of your country, and yet at the same time you're putting or encouraging someone to be the head. Well, someone will argue and say, well, you can still be a part of the Commonwealth even though you leave the King of England. But my philosophy is that, Virgin, if you're going to go, just go and do it.
Just go.
And don't let the doors lick in the back of your head. Just go. That's my philosophy. Just leave, man. Just leave. And I believe that when you leave, you'll see doors opening.
Yes, absolutely.
You'll see a coming together. You'll never know. Virgin, I did a video the other day.
Yeah.
And the video is saying, if you know who you are, you become unstoppable.
Exactly.
And guess which music I use to in my background.
Magical Wild gets into Sizzler.
No. What under my nose?
Oh, okay. I'm out.
Under my nose, I'm out. People say, "Oh, you're a Gaza fan." Well, I've learned, you can't get me wrong. Under my nose, I'm out. Yes, I use the tune Unstoppable. And it fits so perfectly. Once you know who you are, you become unstoppable. And I believe that is what Jamaicans need to know. Hey, Ian, how are you? What Jamaicans need to know, that it's a sense of identity.
Yes.
Once a nation knows that, taking it to the next level. Because I believe that in 1962, when there was this independence pronunciation, I believe at that time it was just a start, the process of independence. How can you say we're independent and you're swearing allegiance to the king still?
Right.
Many people don't like when I say that.
I think you missed a perfect opportunity to have this particular discussion within February, commemorate Black History Month, because it would have been the perfect topic, really.
Well, that is the USA version. The UK's October, we have Black History Month.
Okay. I did not know that.
And I go further. My philosophy is this: we don't wait for a month to discuss these issues. We live it each day, and that is why, and that's one of the reasons why I'm on a quest to actually have these discussions regular. So therefore, you're not constrained by 1 month of October. Because people say, because you always have persons say, "So where's White History Month? Where's Indian History Month? Where's Jewish that month?" So let's get to that. I say, listen.
Let's go by it.
But listen. It's great having this conversation with you, and I want of course, you've been on the show a few times, to come back again and also to bring other youths as well. I'm looking at progressive thinking, Shamar, because I'm tired of just chatting and just having.
Yeah.
I am in the social media space. I've got my talk show, which has been around a long time before all of this, from 2015. And I don't call myself a bloggist. I don't call myself a bloggist or anything like that. I just call myself the Silburn Show, And
Okay.
but I do encourage and support persons in the blogging sphere to really speak and to really don't be cowed down by any lawsuit. Don't be cowed down by anybody trying to stifle you. But I say do it with respect. And if you go beyond and you say things that defame or slander somebody, then you must get sued.
It just happens. It's natural. It's natural justice. Boy,
Yeah.
Silver, I think that's one of the things, because as you say it speaks to the whole point of respectfully bringing across a point.
Yes.
Because once you do it with an appreciation of not any bias or anything to hurt the character, then even they too, the person that you're referring to, begin to respect you.
Yes.
So genuinely, with all these platforms, and I really am appreciative of this show, of course, Silver, because you do talk about the real matters that
Yes.
are oftentimes labeled as a hard topic, a hard
Yes.
thing to speak about.
I touch on topics which are not that sexy. when it's not that sexy, it doesn't get more trending, because I believe in going into deeper substances, because I can't deal with the Cascas virgin. I can't deal with the orange and the green, because them are this and blah blah blah. I can't deal with that.
Yeah.
Life is too short,
Yeah.
virgin. I can't deal with those things.
Truly. But genuinely, Silver, thank you again for having
Yes.
me. And when it comes on to my other colleagues, of course, then yeah, man, I think you would love it the next time you visit, because I know you're a man from Ochi.
Yeah, man, it's
anytime-
original. At least you know that. Original rich man.
Yeah, man. So the next time you're coming by, I definitely think arranging something to have in the community, so
Yes.
that you can have the real life perspectives and then the view. Because I'm telling you, when you sit down and talk to the average man that sell bag juice or do anything from the corner, they have so much insight, even
Yes.
more than us within the system, that
Yes.
you begin to be like, wow, where did he get all this from? And I'm
Yes.
telling you, you just never know until you meet them. I'm telling
And
you.
the interesting thing about that also is, as I say, I'm from Ochiris, and when I was in Ochiris, I did my little walking up and down,
Yes.
and I went up to White River, up to the rafting section there, and also sitting and chatting with some of the guys, them and thing like that, and I hear what has happened to them regarding some sort of issues there. But you just realize, what you realize is this. This is what you realize eventually. People just need to be supported and to be helped and to get a leg up. That's what they want. They're not begging nothing, They might be begging things or something like that because they can't. They need help. But really and truly, they are looking for opportunity to help themselves.
And you
to
can't fight that. You can't
Yeah.
beat that.
Yes.
Because I don't even really want to go into the whole White River situation, because
Yeah.
I was shocked when I saw it on the news.
Yes.
And I really did think the approach to it was probably not the best, because
Yes.
it's not very often, especially in the atmosphere that Jamaica is in right now, that you see many youth trying to actively progress to by the hustler means, which is within the law,
Yes.
to try to get to make a living. Because when I saw the interview of the young man, it moved me, because he was saying that he's doing this for years now, and he's doing his thing for the betterment of his life and his family life. And to see something like that shut down, it kind of builds to, what does he do now? Or
And it's not like in the UK, for argument's sake, if we're out of job or or things happen, you can go and get some benefits. can help you with your rent, help you with your food. You got food banks that can sort of cushion you. So you got that sort of system in the UK. That's why they say a lot of people try to come to the UK, because they say once you're in the UK, they're not going to be destitute, because if you're illegal or whatever, but you're not going to be destitute. They're not going to allow you to sleep on the road unless by choice you want to do so. So I believe it's very important for that. And also, when you think about even the craft guys them and the raft guys them, you would say, instead of even mashing up some of them rafting or so like that, put it aside in a little container and say, this is for Jacko. Until Jacko is sorted, protect their interests.
Protect their interests, exactly. Because it's not like they're intentionally, many of them, they're not intentionally trying to go around the law. They just don't know, and they don't know the procedure. Because let's use the rafting thing, for example. For them to be within a state that they are able to legally continue, they just need to be registered and properly licensed. But a lot of them don't know that. So it's not a case that they don't want to go around the system. It's just the lack of knowledge. I know that ignorance of the law is no excuse, but sometimes you just have to be real. You have to go to the reality of the situation.
So I put it to you then, and I put it to persons within the legal fraternity, young persons with your mindset, even students on a pro bono way or whatever like that, is to somehow go down to these persons, have a conversation with them and say, listen, let us talk about some legal issues, find some ways of sort of, so what you have, to use it to empower others. So that's my encouragement to you, to help those persons who we believe don't know better.
Yes. And you see it. I like the way you framed it now, Silver, because it just goes full circle back to the initial discussion as the nation building. Because persons often leave nation building just to governance, but more than, I'd say, 60% of nation building comes back to the people.
Yes.
So it's just giving back, and oftentimes it might not be beneficial, and most times it's not beneficial to you, but it's the fact of wanting better, not just for yourself, but for your brothers and sisters of your nation, and then that over time will fix the problem that we're having.
Yes.
It's just a sense of camaraderie. We don't have that anymore.
Fix the problem that we're having, and that leads back to the whole point: solutions, social unity and solutions. Having united people together and finding solutions. That's a key thing. So, Shamar, one of the solutions tonight is that persons like yourself is to find those areas or those people who are lacking with guidance, legal guidance, as well, is to pull them together and say, let's have a conversation. Rafters, people in the craft market or so, let's have a conversation. Let them know their rights under the law. Because as a matter of fact, governance and government is all of us working together as much as possible. And that is my encouragement. The other thing which I said I was going to do, and I'm just putting it out there again in space, is civics. Myself and a few persons, we are going to be teaching civics on social media, TikTok, Instagram, whatever like that. We're gonna because every day people keep saying civics is not in the schools. They take civics out of schools. I say, why don't we just do it?
Why? Yeah.
So there's a book I'm gonna send you the link of a book which, and I've been speaking to her, Joanna Simpson. She wrote a book on civics. I've been speaking to Miss Jeanette Calder, Rosalie Hamilton, not the Rosalie Hamilton, but Rosalie Hamilton, the professor, and also Daniel, and also Daniel as well, Archer. I've been speaking to them about ways how we can do this. I believe it is creating empowerment in the minds of people, Shamar. If we empower people, we can't go wrong. But sometimes, why I believe government sometimes do not want to empower people, because it is beneficial for them to remain ignorant. It keeps them in power.
Wow.
I know they don't want me to say that, but I know that.
That's one way to end the show, Sylvan. That's one way to end.
Brethren, Shamar, listen, thank you so much for coming on. And, great. And you take care of yourself, sir, as much as possible, all right?
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Yes, please.
Cool.
Any last word you want to say? Anyhow, still. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you chipped out. You
No,
chipped out in that
no,
last one.
sorry, I was asking any last word that you want to say. Anything to?
Oh, well, you see, in my line of leadership, I've always learned that if any words should be left with an audience, it is that of a call to action.
Mm,
And I learned this from Dr. Hamilton herself. So if she's watching, then thank you
yeah,
again.
yeah,
But yeah, the call to action is to any person that has capacity. If you have any influence, any power, or any knowledge that you know you can share with somebody else,
mm,
especially within the context of Jamaica, do it. Just do it, because you don't know how much it might impact that person. Because it comes back to the core of the conversation that we were having earlier. A lot of persons are here, even though there's an abundance of information, abundance of access to information, it is not so easily received unless there's proper guidance to it. And proper guidance is received through a mentor. So, like
yes,
myself, like Silburn, being a mentor, it doesn't
mm,
need to be within a public capacity, but just knowing somebody that might need a help. Then,
yes.
yes, that would be it.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Shamar. Have a good evening. Of course, you have more sunshine in Jamaica now. You're late over here, but you got some more sunshine there in Jamaica.
Oh, well, Canada still.
You got it
Come on.
down.
All
All right,
right,
then,
so
buddy.
cool. Give thanks.
Take care of yourself, sir. Thank you. Bye bye. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Shamar Bryan, attorney at law in Jamaica. I'm a young man, and we've been knowing for a while. Now, someone sent me a prayer, and I believe it's very important that I say this prayer. I believe one of the best way to leave the show tonight, especially just before Sunday. And it says, let's pray. It says, God, we thank you that your grace is abundant. It is more powerful than our sins. We have hope that we can overcome our worst mistakes. Empower me to grab hold of this amazing grace. Silence the lies of the enemy that would want me to believe I am unlovable. Open my heart to accept and fully understand how much you love me and desire me to live in the right relationship with you and others. Cover my sin with your blood. Change me so I can repent and begin to live in a new way that honors you. Amen. And that's what I want to leave tonight. Because in this world whereby there's so much strife, there's so much war of the words that we can reach into war of the world. We don't want to see the war of the world. So therefore, in this war of the words, let there be peace, let there be harmony, and let there be solutions as much as possible. Because sometimes the war of the words will avert the war of the world. And with that, I want to say, have a good night, and may God bless you, and see you next week. And those on Instagram, those on YouTube, those on Facebook, remember to like the show. And peace out, and God bless you. Bye bye, everyone. Thank you. Bye.